Hello, my name's Tim, and I have Parkinson's disease. It's really a nice day today, so I thought I would go ahead and do this outside. Um, so I'm going to give you an update on what's been going on with my journey. The last time I saw my neurologist, it looks like now I might have to go for DBS, Deep Brain Stimulation. So, it might be 6 months if I'm even approved before I even see anything. In about a month, I have a meeting with a neuropsychologist. So I'll be with her for a few hours. I'll have about 3 hours of testing, make sure I don't have dementia or any issues, where I can go ahead and get DBS. The reason here lately, I've been taking my Cinnamate about every 2 hours, and I'm off an awful lot, and I have dyskinesia an awful lot anymore. So it's next to impossible for me to control. So anyway, what I've done is I've gone a little deeper than a lot of people in a lot of my videos. If something is happening, I would like to know as much as I can learn about that subject. And if I'm going to have brain surgery, I'd like to know a little bit about it. So this video is a little longer than my other videos, and I do get into some detail about DBS. And if you don't care about that, well, you don't have to watch it. But if you're curious, you can see what I put together. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just an old retired guy with Parkinson's disease. Thank you. There are three DBS suppliers: Abbott, Boston Scientific, and Medtronic. I think they're all about the same, but each of them has something unique about them. And as an example, Abbott, I guess what they can do that the others can't do is remotely program your DBS. So you don't have to go into the doctor's office to have it programmed. They all started out about the same way. The electrode, when they would send out a pulse, it would be the same amount of power going in all directions, all the way around. But Boston Scientific, they come up with the directional. So you can have, in towards one direction, more power than going towards another direction. And I believe they're the only supplier that has a 16 contact electrode. And then last we have the Medtronic, which happens to have been the first of the DBS suppliers. Something they have that's unique is they recently have this something called adaptive DBS. It's also called closed loop. This drawing represents someone that has DBS. Starting at the top of his head, you can see two electrodes, and you can see where they entered through the skull to place the electrodes. I heard that the size of that entry there is about the size of a dime. Then you can see a wire coming out, going back behind the ear, then on down to the chest where the battery stimulator is implanted. It's all under the skin, so you don't see that. They may have to perform a couple of surgeries. The first one where they put in the electrodes and then have the wire back behind the ear. And then after a couple of weeks, when everything heals some, then they go ahead and in your chest, they'll put that battery pack stimulator and then connect the wires. And then you come back in maybe another couple of weeks and they finally turn it on. So you probably have this in your body for about a month and then they finally turn it on. Since this is like a heart pacemaker and it's under the skin, you might be curious about just how big is this? Here's a picture of Boston Scientific's non-rechargeable batteries. And for the size, 72 millimeters, if you're not familiar, 72 looks like a big number, but that's 7.2 centimeters or about 3 inches. So it's only about 3 inches high and about 2 inches wide and about a half an inch thick. Here's their rechargeable. It looks like it's a little bit smaller. It's about 2 inches by 2 inches by about a half an inch. All three of the DBS technology suppliers have rechargeable batteries. Now, a rechargeable battery could last 10 to 15 years, whereas a non-rechargeable, they would have to be replaced maybe every, 3-4 years. The rechargeable batteries are also quite a bit smaller than the non-rechargeable. Now let's take a look at who would be a good potential candidate for DBS. First of all, they have to have idiopathic Parkinson's disease, which basically just means the underlying cause is unknown. For me, I was diagnosed about 7 years ago. And at that point in time, it might not have been Parkinson's disease. It could have been multiple system atrophy, or it could be Lewy body, or it could be a lot of things. It could take a couple of years before you find out you don't really have the Parkinson's disease idiomatic. What you have is maybe Lewy body. And sorry to say, but DBS will not help out if you have Lewy body. By the way, the paper that just popped up was written by my neurologist, MDS, Dr. Jason Massa, and one of his colleagues. And what this paper is talking about, there were 390 subjects. And out of those 390 that were diagnosed with PD, it ends up after a couple of years that actually 5 of them had MSA, 2 of them had dementia with Lewy body, and 1 had corticobasal degeneration. Now, about 7 years ago, when I started taking Cinnamate, I felt like I was reborn. Cinnamate really worked for me. I was responsive to dopaminergic therapy. My on-off fluctuations are so bad now. Well, I'm off quite a bit of the time. Okay, we've got a couple of dogs. I'm now off. I'm gonna play the guitar a little bit, I'm not sure. Okay, Nugget, you wanna move so I can get by? Thank you, Nugget, thank you. Nugget, that's right, thank you. Okay. Okay, I can strum, but I don't know if I can hit the right note. I think that's enough. When I'm on, I feel like I can do anything. I have troublesome dyskinesia quite often. This morning when I was brushing my teeth, I have an electric brush. The faucet is at least 2.5 feet from my head. However, somehow I hit my head on the faucet. And then as I'm getting up, my hand went and hit the mirror. I didn't break anything. Try to eat a meal with dyskinesia. It might take me a little longer to eat, but I'll be done after a couple days of trying. Visiting friends that evening.
You're gonna fall off of the. You're gonna fall off of the chair.
I know. I'm gonna try to stand up.
Oh, Dad, don't try to stand up.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh,
Dude,
okay.
I swear, if you don't fall down.
Okay, that's enough. Just try to get some sleep at nighttime. Well, it's the next morning, and I think I want to go out for breakfast. I'm not going to stop going out in public just because I have dyskinesia. I have dyskinesia, not really bad, but it's bad enough. But that's not going to stop me from going out with people. I'm in a restaurant, eating breakfast. That's pretty good. We just saw a few ways where an individual could be a candidate to have DBS. And now let's look at just a few where you no longer are a candidate for DBS. The first item would be if you suffer from dementia. The DBS isn't going to help anyone that has dementia. If you're in the late stages of Parkinson's disease, then you can't be a candidate. In fact, dementia usually comes around the late stage. If you have hallucinations and falling, maybe if you're falling an awful lot. Finally, some medical conditions. Maybe you have some comorbidities that are pretty bad and your doctor says you just can't have surgery, it's just not safe. So naturally, you couldn't have it then. You're then not a candidate for DBS. There used to be a cutoff point by age. So they say if you were this age, then you're too old. Then again, you could have somebody say they're 40 years old and they have a body of a 90-year-old, or say a 85-year-old person that's very, very healthy. We probably should keep in mind that as we age, our brain shrinks. And the targets in your brain for those electrodes are really pretty small. In my case, like for Parkinson's disease, we're talking about a couple of different targets. That would be the subthalamic nucleus, and the other one I think is the globus pallidus internus. But those are really small. As an example, the first one I mentioned, the subthalamic nucleus, it's only about 150 to 300 cubic millimeters. So that's a small target in the middle of the brain. I have a copy of my last MRI, and it mentions, atrophy because of age, and I think I'll go ahead and show you that, and you can see just how small. See, my brain is shrinking. Okay, that's not me, but hopefully you got the idea. That small target, the subthalamic nucleus, is actually broken up into 3 more pieces, so only a third of that target is for motor. Let's take a look at directional electrode. Now, in this picture, if you look at the top on the left, we can see that the electrode is at the target, and up where the green is, that's the hot spot and the target that we want to send a signal. Now, and then across from that, you can see the red sour spot. Now, the sour spot could be a location where you start to get really bad side effects. One example could be, let's say your target is the globus pallidus internus. Now, that's right next to the globus pallidus externus, and possibly that red sour spot or bad spot happens to be in the externus, not the internus of the globus pallidus. Now with the directional stimulus, we can move closer to the green and farther away from the red. And that is represented by the three pictures at the bottom. You can see that the green is completely covered by the signal and the red is completely out of it. Before I finish up, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the old way, the surgeons, what they had to use in order to do DBS surgery. Looking at this picture here, part of a brain, you can see a lot of the piece parts that make up the basal ganglia. If you look at the very top, you can see what is the head of the caudate nucleus. And then if you go over to the left, PU, that would be the putamen. And then below that, you can see globus pallidus externus, and then the globus pallidus internus. And then just below that, and a little bit to the right, you see STN. That's the subthalamic nucleus. So the STN and the globus pallidus internus, both of those happen to be targets for PD and deep brain stimulation. Not that many years ago, the neurosurgeons had to use MRIs of cadavers. So the planning and the targeting required a lot of calculations. So as an example, the subthalamic nucleus, the way they would find that, you have to go to the red nucleus first and then calculate your X, Y, Z coordinates. Thank goodness they don't have to do that anymore. These three pictures shows the patient's CT scan, MRI, and at the far right, the application that merges everything together. So you can even see you hit the target. Now, finally, have your DBS programmed. Now, my programmer will be my neurologist, Dr. Massa. So what he can do, he can change the amplitude, how much power is going out. He can change the width of the pulses and also the rate of the pulses. Without DBS, just medication, I have a diary. So I put down when I eat, when I take my medication, if I have dyskinesia, if I'm off, I'm on, a lot of information. Well, with this technology, that could be monitored by my doctor. Now when I go and see my doctor can tell me, hey, at about 2 o'clock on Friday, you were off. And I can see that on Thursday at 3 in the afternoon, you had some dyskinesia. Now you can see it, but there's only one of the vendors that can actually do something with this information and make changes. It's a adaptive DBS. In February of 2025, adaptive DBS was approved. Now looking at this picture, you can see up at the top on the left, that's constant DBS or open loop. And if you're looking at that orange colored line, you can see it's just constant. It's always at about 1.5 milliamps. We're not doing anything with it. It's just, if you want to change it, you have to go to the doctor. He does a little reprogramming, and then he can change it up, down, or whatever needs to be done. You can see that that yellow line is going up, 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 as the blue is going down, down, down. So now the blue is beta waves. So the programmer can set parameters high and low for the beta waves and then make adjustments. So if the beta waves are above the threshold, we could lower the intensity and vice versa. And then at the far right, it's just showing a closed loop. The gentleman in the picture, he's being extra cautious. He has a knife, so he's slowly cutting whatever he's cutting, and because of that, his beta waves drops below the threshold, so the intensity then would be raised.